Hello and welcome again to Living by Design. This video is a follow-up about religion and the social being. Now, if we look at spirituality, there is a video on spirituality as well. Religion is a part of our spirituality. Our spirituality is all-encompassing as seen in the previous video. When we look at religion, as we grow up, we are taught by our elders what our religion entails, whether we are Christian, Muslim, Jew, or whatever. We are educated about our religion, and quite often that becomes like a punishment. All we hear is that if you don't do this, you will be punished. If you don't do that, you will be punished. We don't often hear about the mercy of the Almighty. And I think that has to change. I know that many children who have grown up in very, very religious homes become rebellious afterwards because they were forced virtually to do stuff. Now, it's good to teach. You have to teach. The basics of any religion has to be entrenched in our system. Okay. I can only speak from a perspective as a Muslim, although I have grown up with a lot of Christianity because my grandma was a Christian and my mom always used to honor her cousins who were Christian, and even on her deathbed she had asked us not to abandon her Christian cousins. So as a united family, whether it's Christian, Muslim, Jew, Buddhism, Buddhist, or whatever, we need to teach and exemplify what we teach. If I believe that my religion is the right one, I should live so that everybody else thinks that. And we should exemplify to our children that this is how we need to grow up as Muslims, as Christians, as Jews. This is what our religion tells us. And beyond that, it is spirituality. We will reach out to others because what we believe in our religion is not compulsory on anybody else. So we have, and we are part of a society of different cultures, of different religions, and that is where our spirituality comes in. Where we accept one another, where we accept and respect other religions, other cultures, and we learn to live like everybody matters. Now, if we're going to start by forcing anything, in the end, it can only recoil. If we force, for example, somebody to pray, for example, 5 times a day, we are forced to do it. In the end, a child may rebel when they're on their own, when they can make their own decisions. But if we exemplify that, if we make it something that is pleasurable, something that we need to resort to for the right reasons, that we do it because we want to do it, because we feel grateful for who we are and what we are, it is very important that a child understands why they do things and not because you are going to be punished if you don't do that. Now, I have spoken earlier about in the previous video, I've spoken about fasting at a very young age. It is detrimental to the child, even though they can make it through. If they practice, for example, from the age of 4, say if you fast this hour, if you fast 2 hours, it's an achievement for the child. But don't make them feel that they have to fast the whole day. Don't make them feel good about I've made it through the day, and on the day that they didn't make it, they feel bad as if they have failed. It is not compulsory on them to do it. They are only required to start training at the age of 7. And then at the age of 10, it needs to be enforced. For a girl, it may be a little bit different because when she starts puberty, when she starts menstruating, things become compulsory on her. It may be earlier than 10. So up to the parents to take note of that. But very importantly, do not force a child to do anything. I've had so many cases where children have just let go of everything because they felt so anxious about their lives. They felt that life is just becoming too much for them and that they cannot handle their friends who are slightly different. So let the child develop in the way that maybe you have developed. I know of people who have come, for example, to the age of 40, only started really, like we call it, coming right. And now they expect the world around them to be right. When they have been told to do this, that and the other, there was still time. But when they have children, they want to make the children do what they couldn't do when they were young. I am not saying do not teach your children the right thing, but be careful, be mindful of the path that you have followed as a parent. Or I think for myself also, the path that I followed when I was a kid. When I grew up, when I grew older, I didn't always listen to my parents. I didn't always do what was the right thing. So I cannot enforce on a child what I didn't manage when I was that age. I always look back when I see a child and I see that what they're doing is not the right thing. And I think back of what did you do when you were that age? So we need to be mindful of the path that we have come through. Also, the other issue that we addressed in the previous video was the memorization of the Quran at such a young age. It is a good thing to memorize and to be in touch with the Quran, to practice. In my opinion, when I teach, for example, I want the child to understand everything. I want my students to understand everything. They fail sometimes. Like I failed also in many things that I've tried. I'm still not good in the kitchen. So yeah, there are things that we cannot all do. But yes, for a child at such a young age to not understand what they are doing, it's good to read, yes. But if I'm going to commit something to memory, what I do if I try to memorize a part of the Quran, I first read the English. I try to understand it, and because I understand a bit of Arabic, it is easy for me to memorize because I know the story, I know some keywords, and I know what verses now have to follow. So if a child understands and live what they learn, it is important. We do all make mistakes. We step on the side. Sometimes we leave the path and it leads into muddy waters, it leads into sandy roads, it leads into bushy roads, it leads anywhere. But we know our way back because our parents have taught us the basics. We know where to get back to. And it should be a pleasure to get back to that road. Like I said, we all fall, we stand up, we dust off, and we go ahead. In the previous video, we spoke about suicides. And quite often when children have been socialized that this is how you have to be, this is what is expected, etc. of you. And if they fall, some of them don't want to get up. They want to be dragged along with that muddy water into the ocean and stay there. It is not good to feel like that. It's not good for us to make anyone feel like that. So when we teach our religion, we exemplify, we try our best, and my very first video in this series on Living by Design, it's a crappy video. The sound is bad. Just everything about it is bad except the message in there. So you have to go right to the end to get the beautiful message of that particular video. But I put that video up for everybody to see that nothing starts off perfectly. That when we put out something, it had its flaws. I put that flaws out there so people can see that. I also had a learning curve till where I am now. So when we bring religion into our spirituality, that says human kindness comes first. The heart of human kindness is the first one. And that transcends all barriers of religion. A human being is a human being. We do not choose where our souls go. Our souls are sent down into a body, and we did not choose that body. It was chosen by the Almighty, where your soul had to be. So we need to respect the Almighty's choices, that that particular soul was chosen to go there. That other soul was chosen to go into that body. To those parents, we don't choose our parents. We don't choose the religion of our parents. What if I was born a Jew? What if I was born in a Christian home? These are things that we need to consider. How would I have reacted if people had shunned me just because of my religion? So, when we teach religion, we need to teach also that there is compassion in religion, that there is no compulsion in religion, but we will all be called to answer. And therefore, I should live in such a way that what I put out there is acceptable. I have my flaws, and that's not for everybody to see. I have many other flaws. I try to hide it. And we are asked to conceal our own faults, and we are asked to conceal the faults of others like we conceal our own faults. And it doesn't say you must just conceal the faults of the people of your own religion. So let's be a little bit more spiritual from here onwards. Let's be a little more tolerant about how we treat people who make mistakes, how we treat people who have fallen. And I can recall at this point that my biggest stride in my becoming, I'm trying to be a good person, and one of my biggest steps in this regard was many years ago when I had a spiritual teacher who taught me Tawheed, taught me the oneness of the Almighty, and just how to live as a good Muslim. And on her first encounter, she related her own story as someone who had been taken advantage of, and she ended up pregnant. And while at school, she thought she had a child. Her family was a very religious family, and they hid her with a child in the house. She couldn't go out anyway. And for years, she suffered and stayed back and didn't do anything much outside because she was embarrassed, because the family made her feel that she was just a bad person. But that was my best teacher. My spirituality grew when I met that woman, and her openness opened my eyes also to what people go through. And at some stage in her life, she said, but I've been punished enough. I've prayed, and while she was in the house, she had learned her deen, because that was the family's tradition, is to be very, very religious. So she has learned her deen very well, and she said to herself, if this is my deen, if my Allah is so merciful, He has forgiven me a long time ago, why am I hiding? And she came out of hiding. She started teaching, and she also relates her own story, because she says it happens to so many that people take advantage of young girls. That should have been statutory rape, but the parents were too embarrassed to do anything about it, and they just made her suffer in silence. So, well, my story here is, I hope that this video helps many who struggle with religion, who struggle to get along with others, those who have dogmatic families, those who have dogmatic families or teachers. We must remember, first of all, we have a very, very merciful God. We have mercy, we have blessings, and that is what we need to push. And maybe the world will be a better place if we start living that mercy and handing out blessings like we get it. Being grateful and living in gratitude is one of the most powerful things we can do as human beings. Let us be one. let us learn to love one another for the sake of the Almighty, because He put those souls there in those bodies. And by the way, this body that I have here that houses my soul, a part of the reason that I stress so much about getting the body healthy, getting it fit, is that we like to get in beautiful cars and beautiful clothes. So why not have your soul a beautiful body? I leave you with this message. Thank you for watching.